A salt-wet wind clawed across Candlewick Isle as the refitted ferry groaned against the stone jetty. In its beam lay the lantern tower that had guided ships for almost 2 centuries, its lantern dark for the first time since the Second World War, while crews sandblasted iron and repointed masonry. The Candlewick light was Tessa Bright's favourite silhouette in all the world. Tapered granite encircled by a spiral of whitewash rising from a bluff spotted with thrift. She had volunteered as a guide the day funding was secured, imagining schoolchildren gaping up at its Fresnel lens and dreamers taking pictures beneath its red cap. Now, 3 weeks before the grand reopening, restoration dust hung in the stairwell, and warning tape fluttered at every turn. Still, Tessa's pulse thrummed with pride as she followed site historian Dr. Lionel Graves along the gangplank. Graves, silver-bearded and neat as a sextant, carried a leather tube of sketches under one arm. "You'll be the first civilian inside since last month's safety inspection," he said, offering her a conspiratorial smile. "I may need a witness to history today." "Have you found something?" Tessa asked. The historian only tapped the tube. "After lunch," he promised, before hurrying towards the keeper's cottage that served as field office. The Lighthouse's small crew milled across the courtyard. Electrician Samira Holst wrangling cable reels, foreman Hector Diaz shouting measurements, intern Nikki Wu logging supply crates. Harbour Warden Owen Morrow leaned against a crate, polishing binoculars and scanning the slate-coloured sea. At the fringe stood heiress Felicity White, primary donor and self-proclaimed preservationist, gold scarf snapping like a pennant. Tessa began her routine, moving room to room to update interpretive plaques. At 2 o'clock, she was scheduled to meet Graves for a walkthrough, but noon came and went with no sign of him. Rain blew sideways, rattling scaffolding boards, and the crew retreated for coffee in the cottage kitchen. Graves's thermos, brassy and dented, sat untouched on the draining board. An hour later, a scream ricocheted through the tower. Tessa shot from the office and sprinted across the courtyard, nearly colliding with Nikki at the lighthouse door. The intern's hard hat dangled from its chinstrap, face ash-white. "He's down there," Nikki choked. At the base of the spiral stairs lay Dr. Lionel Graves, limbs twisted, gaze fixed on an unlit lantern overhead. A crimson crescent spread beneath his head, soaking into ancient flagstones. In his right hand he gripped a sheet of parchment, brittle and browned, edges crumbling like burned pastry. Tessa knelt, fingers trembling, but a quick check of his throat confirmed what they all feared. The historian was dead. Hector Diaz herded everyone outside, while Morrow radioed the mainland constabulary, learning the obvious: heavy seas had suspended ferry service. The detective launch could not depart until dawn. Until then, nobody could leave Candlewick Isle, and nobody, they agreed, should enter the lighthouse. Wind shoved dusk across the sky. Gathered in the cottage, the crew whispered speculation. A misstep, a bad heart, a trick of vertigo. Yet Tessa's memory replayed Graves's promise. "You'll be the first civilian inside." And she knew excitement, not frailty, had fueled him this morning. He'd ascended those stairs countless times. Why fall now? When the others drifted to their quarters, Tessa lingered by the evidence bag Morrow had sealed around the parchment. Even through cloudy plastic, she discerned faint cartographic flourishes. A line drawing of the lighthouse, hints of tunnels worming beneath bedrock, and an X beneath the notation, Keeper's Reserve, 1864. "That's private property now," Felicity White murmured behind her. The donor's voice was soft as silk but laced with frost. If Lionel found something valuable, the Candlewick Trust must ensure its security. Tessa looked up sharply. He found history, Miss White. That belongs to everyone. Felicity's gaze flickered towards the bag. Perhaps. But someone thought otherwise, it seems. With a swish of perfume and cashmere, she retired, leaving Tessa alone with buzzing thoughts. Sleep proved impossible. Shortly before midnight, Tessa slipped from the dormitory and crossed the courtyard. Clouds hid the moon. Only her headlamp etched a cone of light. Yellow tape barred the lighthouse door, but the padlock hung unfastened. Someone had broken the seal. She stepped inside, heart hammering. The metal stairs spiraled upward in a column of shadow. Halfway up, her beam caught fresh scars on a tread. Bolts loosened, guard plate bent outward. Deliberate sabotage. Graves had not fallen. He had been pushed by engineered accident. A board creaked above. Tessa killed her light and flattened against the wall. Footsteps descended cautiously, accompanied by the whisper of paper. As the figure rounded a curve, she recognized Hector Diaz's broad frame. In one hand, he carried a toolbox. In the other, a flashlight whose beam probed each screw of the stairs. Tessa emerged. Looking for something you missed earlier? Hector whirled, nearly dropping the light. Hell, Tessa, you scared me. I thought I should secure the staircase. Liability, you know. Without the police, and after removing the lock. He shifted, jaw flexing. I have a conscience. Graves was a good man. So good that someone wanted him dead. Those bolts weren't loose this morning. Hector's face darkened. Are you accusing me? Not yet, but you're standing on evidence. She gestured toward the bent plate. The foreman followed her gaze, shoulders sagging. Okay, I noticed damage earlier and worried my crew would be blamed. I swear I didn't touch those bolts. Who had access? Everyone with a key ring, Hector said, voice low. But ask yourself who benefits. The map. Tessa descended, mind spinning. At the foot of the stairs, Hector crouched by Graves's chalk outline, muttering prayers. She left him to remorse and stepped back into rain. At dawn, the detective launch still had not departed, the storm-smothered radio signal. Tessa convened the crew in the kitchen. She had sketched Graves's map from memory in her notebook. Lighthouse profile, tunnel network, X. Dr. Graves unearthed something, she said. Someone killed to keep it secret. We're the only potential witnesses. Samira Holst rubbed bleary eyes. You think it's treasure? Candlewick Isle reeks of smuggler folklore. Not folklore, Morrow interjected, lifting a weathered logbook. I found this in the archives cupboard. Keeper Elijah Stannard, 1864. He opened to a pressed page, deposited the stone in the Overwatch vault. Light must not dim. The Candlewick stone, Felicity breathed. Legend says a blue diamond funded the lighthouse. That legend bankrolled renovation donations, Nicky muttered. Tessa turned pages. Beneath brittle handwriting lay a cipher of coordinates matching Graves's map. He was tracing the vault, she said. Hector crossed his arms. So Lionel found the map, and one of us silenced him. If you're right, the killer still wants that vault. Silence pressed the group until Samira snorted. Then let's find it first, give it to police, and go home safe. They split into teams. Morrow and Nicky searched storerooms. Hector and Samira examined crawlspaces. Tessa took the lamp room, climbing past dawn-lit windows into a gallery of gears and pulleys. Among crates of dismantled prisms, she located an iron trapdoor, seams masked by grease. Using a crowbar, she lifted it to reveal a shaft plunging into granite. Her radio crackled. "Tessa, it's Nate from the launch. Seas calming, still an hour out. Static then. Be careful." She pocketed the radio, tied her rope to a stanchion, and descended. 30 feet below, boots splashed onto a ledge. Narrow passages wormed toward the island's core, smell of salt and iron thick. She followed faded chalk arrows, perhaps left by graves, until limestone widened into a chamber. At its center rose a waist-high granite pedestal, lid ajar. Inside the cavity lay an empty velvet cradle. Too late. But a note sat where a jewel might have rested, modern paper folded crisp. Tessa opened it. "Leave by sundown, or the beacon never shines again." Footsteps scuffed behind her. She spun as Samira limped into view, sleeve torn, blood darkening her forearm. "Hector and I found nothing under the oil room," the electrician rasped. "We split up. Someone hit me from behind." Tessa helped her sit. "The vault's been robbed, and they threatened the light." Samira's gaze burned. "Without the lantern's backup generator, ships will smash the shoals. Who the hell are we dealing with?" Tessa's mind flashed to the donor. Felicity possessed motive, wealth and lineage, as well as access and cunning. Yet Morrow controlled the island's only weapons and had soared to the archives conveniently. Nicky, the scavenger of crates, carried youthful agility. Hector carried tools to sabotage stairs. They needed evidence. Tessa led Samira up the rope. Noon sun broke through ragged clouds, illuminating the lantern room, but generator hum was conspicuously absent. Morrow's voice boomed through the courtyard loudspeaker, the old foghorn system. "All personnel muster by the jetty immediately." When the women arrived, Hector, Nicky, and Felicity stood in a tense arc facing Morrow, who held a flare gun. At his feet sat a canvas sack. The harbour warden's normally genial face had ossified into resolve. "Step back," he ordered. "Ferry's 20 minutes away. We're leaving this rock. No one follows." "What have you done, Owen?" Tessa demanded. He wagged the flare gun. "Secured my pension." He nudged the sack with his boot. Metal tucked inside clinked. "Blue diamonds gone, but antiques dealers pay plenty for brass prisms and Civil War artifacts. Graves wanted them catalogued. Fool. I offered him partnership. He brushed me off, so I incentivized him down the stairs." Hector lunged, but Morrow cocked the flare, forcing retreat. Rain resumed in needles. Felicity's scarf whipped as she stepped forward. "You idiot! Those pieces belong to history." Morrow shrugged. "They belonged to dead mariners. Now they'll keep me afloat instead." Tessa took a measured breath. "Owen, the light. You turned off the generator." "Ships use GPS now. Spare me the nostalgia." "GPS can fail, and there's a regatta approaching from the south." She pointed toward the smudged horizon, where white sails speckled the grey. "You kill one sailor, you won't outrun justice." A flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. Then he raised the flare gun higher. "I'll take my chances." Samira whispered, "Distract him." Tessa nodded imperceptibly. "At least let us radio the fleet a warning. Your quarrel is with us." Morrow hesitated, steps backing toward the jetty. Behind him, the ferry's silhouette appeared, bucking swells. He slung the sack over his shoulder and clicked the flare gun safety off. Samira nudged Tessa's hand, pressing something small and hard. A detonator key. "Remote for generator circuit," she mouthed. Tessa's pulse kicked. If the beacon flashed, perhaps Morrow would falter. She glanced at the lighthouse. From here the lantern was obscured. "Last chance," Morrow barked. Tessa raised both hands, palms wide. Okay, you win. But Dr. Graves deserved better." She stepped sideways, drawing his aim. "Do you even know why that diamond was hidden?" Because Lighthouse administrators were thieves too, he spat. No, Felicity said, voice quaking. Because the keeper feared Union raiders would seize it to darken the coast. The stone funded repairs for 40 years. People protected the light because it protected lives. Sweet story. Morrow shrugged. Tessa's thumb found the switch on Samira's key. She pressed. High atop the tower, the giant Fresnel lens awakened, its first flash slicing the murk, a spear of molten gold that stung eyes even in daylight. The beam swept the jetty, dazzling Morrow. He flinched, lowering the flare gun. In that blink, Hector tackled him, the flare skittering across planks before igniting in a hiss of red smoke. The canvas sack tore as it hit the deck, disgorging prisms, brass fittings, and a velvet pouch heavy with blue fire, the Candlewick stone. Nicky stomped the flare out, while Samira kicked the gun into the sea. Together they wrestled Morrow to the ground, binding his wrists with cable ties. Sirens wailed from the approaching launch. Relief collapsed Tessa's knees, but she steadied herself and pocketed the key. Raindrops hissed against relit glass as she turned toward the beacon. It pulsed steadily, unmarred by greed or secrecy. Later, island constables swarmed the site. Evidence secured, they loaded Morrow into a launch cage. Before boarding, he twisted toward Tessa. You think history's safe with bureaucrats? Wait and see who steals next. She met his gaze. We'll all be watching. Felicity approached, holding the stone as though it might burn through her gloves. The trust board will want to display this. After proper security, Tessa agreed, and a plaque for Dr. Graves. The heiress nodded. You saved more than a lighthouse today. Not alone, Tessa said, glancing at Samira, Hector, Nicky, exhausted, bruised, united. Thunder grumbled like distant cannon fire, but the beacon glowed, unblinking, over darkening water. 2 days later, beneath a calmer sky, Tessa resumed installing interpretive panels. In the visitors' vestibule hung a new exhibit, Graves's reproduced map beside Elijah Stannard's logbook page, illuminated by warm track light. Children would trace those inked tunnels, she hoped, and learn that protecting history sometimes meant descending into darkness for the sake of the light. She climbed the restored spiral, each bolt tightened twice by Hector's penitent hands, and stepped onto the gallery. The ocean spread azure and endless. Far below, a schooner tilted past the shoals, its sails catching sunbeams refracted by the mighty lens. Tessa touched the gallery rail, feeling cold iron hum with the turning of the light. Candlewick Isle breathed again. Somewhere in the hush she sensed Graves's satisfaction, and with it her own resolve. No matter the peril, she would guard the stories the lighthouse kept, ensuring its beacon and its truth never dimmed again.